Hey there everyone, it's Hardcore Sustainable and I'm here right by Tampa Bay, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about capitalism. Capitalism is kind of like a virus, and when you are aware of environmental problems, you see the effects that capitalism has on the environment. So I say it's like a virus because it's just a constant pressure and an infection on the planet, a constant pressure towards destruction of the planet. Now there are ways that capitalism can lead to efficiency that makes products more efficient and reduces the impact on the planet by driving technology, but often technology is driven towards, well, it's always driven towards whatever's the cheapest. So that's just sort of a side effect of the drive for profit, but mostly what it does is it destroys the planet, and I have a really good example of that for you today. I recently went to a store and I found that these things are starting to crop up on cans of beer and 6-packs of soda again. Now, I remember these things from the early days of my environmental activism, and there was a huge movement to ban these, get rid of these things, and pressure was put on corporations, and these companies decided to voluntarily stop making them. And this is a great example of how capitalism is constant creep towards things that are less sustainable, because these things have started appearing again, probably because there's a new generation of consumers, there's a new generation of corporate leaders who are just like, have looked at their systems and they're like, so why are we not using these things that are so much cheaper? And it's been 25 years, I think, since these things disappeared, and there's a good reason why they disappeared. There was a lot of pressure put on these corporations, these beverage companies, to stop producing these because there were images like this that people saw of wildlife being strangled by these things. Because what happens is birds and waterfowl will get their necks and their heads stuck through these things just by swimming through the water, because these things can float, and then it will strangle them. So it's a pretty tragic thing. Before they started getting rid of these things, people would cut them, to make sure that there wasn't any opening that a waterfowl could get their head stuck in. And that was a lot of effort versus them just getting rid of them and stop manufacturing them. There's a lot of advocates of capitalism who tout its ability to be responsive to consumer pressure. But we can see from this example that it has a very short-term memory. And that consumer pressure has to be constant in order to keep it in check. Now, this is an example of a voluntary effort on the part of corporations. So back in the early 90s, CFCs, which were causing a hole in the ozone layer, were banned through an international treaty. And so that stops the production. Until that treaty is dissolved, that ban is going to stay in effect. No treaty, no law was made about these as far as I know, probably some on the local level, but in order to stop the manufacture and production of these things, it really has to be a nationwide law that's implemented to stop corporations from producing these things. And you can see what happens when the free market is allowed to regulate itself, which is that it doesn't. It responds briefly to consumer pressure, and you think about all the political energy that was put into this effort by activists, all the money that was put into campaigns to put pressure on corporations to ban these things, and now 25 years later they're back again. It's like a virus that there's no vaccination for, so we can't do anything about it. It's constant there, and if we let down our guard at all, it will begin to destroy the planet faster than it already is. And of course, the people who control our government and the right-wing conservatives and a lot of centrists are for getting rid of regulations on the free market. They tout capitalism as being this great thing that will do things on its own, it will keep everything under control, but it really is out of control all the time. And We don't need deregulation, we need more regulation. We need these things to be banned. This is a great example of how government can have a positive effect. If these things were just banned from production nationwide, until that law was repealed, they would never be produced again. So anyways, that's just what I think of when I come to places like this and I see lots of litter on the shore, and I saw a dead sea turtle here last week. These things in particular, I think, are pretty seriously damaging. All plastic, any kind of disposable plastic or otherwise, is harmful to wildlife because it ends up breaking up into small pieces. They ingest it, it gets stuck in their digestive system or otherwise blocks their digestive system, and they starve to death. And plastics float, so they're going to end up on the shoreline, they're going to end up exactly where all these water birds are. So it would be great if we could have laws against these things. St. Petersburg just implemented a ban on straws, and I don't know exactly how that is applied, but that's one thing that's like, it is an issue for wildlife. So the point I'm making is that we need government to control capitalism and the free market, because it cannot solve any of these problems on its own. All it cares about is profit, and it doesn't care about these wildlife. It needs us to care about the wildlife, and then us to make laws that prevent ourselves from harming the wildlife. Alright, so subscribe to my channel, share and like the video, you know the drill, and click on the bell to get notifications, and don't forget to check out the Hardcore Sustainable Facebook page.